One person may have an ambition that is higher than the other partner. And one partner feels like they're staying in the same place while the other one is trying to grow and expand and do all these things. And that causes a mismatch, resentment, and ill feelings. Have you ever felt that way?
Welcome to Startup Spouses, where we help entrepreneur couples take their relationship from mediocre to mind-blowing. I'm Marie, an intimacy coach.
I'm Adam. I am a business coach. And today we are going to touch on a subject I think that affects a lot of couples in their alignment, in their relationship dynamic. A lot of times people enter into these contracts of relationships. And when they get into their marriage, they find that one person may be growing faster than the other. One person may have an ambition that is higher than the other partner. And one partner feels like they're staying in the same place while the other one is trying to grow and expand and do all these things. And that causes a mismatch, resentment, and ill feelings. Have you ever felt that way? I know that we have in certain times of our relationships from both sides of the spectrum on that. And that's what we're going to touch on today is the idea of when you're mismatched with your growth. How do you navigate that? And we'll talk about that as we get into this episode of Startup Spouses.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about having mismatched energy.
You don't know anything about it?
No,
Yeah, no, either do I.
No, it's like, that reminds me back at the time when you were doing Ironman training. Too.
Oh, yeah.
So when you were doing Ironman training and you told me like that you wanted to go to the World Championships, and I was really excited for you.
Yeah.
I really got on board. I was like, this is going to be great for him. This is going to be awesome. I mean, I'm finally going to have the spouse that I've always wanted that's not drinking, and we're going to live happily ever after.
That's a chiseled triathlon alien body. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So as you are training and as you're going through this, there's a lot of hours that are spent in this part of the world, that I had no idea about, except for swimming.
Hey, who would have known that doing a 9 to 15 hour race would take a lot of time training? Who would have known?
So as you're going through that, you mentioned your physical change.
Yeah.
Because that was very apparent, So you wore a lot less clothing around, and you spent a lot of time on your working out. So of course you're going through this physical change, and then you go through this mental change, and I could see that happening, and a part of me was like, wow, that is so inspiring. It takes a lot, because if you're doing a 9 to 10 hour race, there's a lot going on there. So
right.
While you were training and while you were doing this, and I could see these accomplishments happening and a lot of attention, and you got on the show for Quest for Kona, I started having these feelings, that, I'm going to put everything aside, help him focus on this. And I put everything off. I focus on the kids, and I did not look at myself and say, hey, I want to do something like that.
Right.
Instead it was met with, after the races, okay, you're done. So let me unload all the stuff that I didn't tell you while you were training, because I didn't want you to worry about things. And then it didn't go so well. It was like almost immediately, like the night of your accomplishment, I was like, okay, now I need to unload.
Yeah.
And that came from a place of me not focusing on myself. So it was really difficult for a person who really championed another person. Maybe you have a child in your life that is really great at a sport, and you are going around all over the place, and you forget about yourself, and you put yourself last. So that was a time, and it's really difficult in those places of putting yourself last, and then finally going, oh my gosh, I want to try something. And it's pretty much met with, oh my gosh, you are so focused on yourself that I need attention. I need something. I need something. And I'm looking for the outside for you to fix me
Right.
because I feel left behind.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there was, so in that time where you were both encouraging and motivating, because I wouldn't have done the Ironman triathlon if you didn't say, yeah, you should totally do it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I remember that time. It was like I was a year sober. I was literally like in a shoulder sling after having shoulder surgery, and I had this weird like thought in my mind about when I watched the Ironman World Championship on television a few years earlier, and I was like, I remember when I said that I couldn't do that. Now I'm sober. Why not? And I had crazy ideas in the past, and what I would do is like I would talk to Marie about them, and then I would like that would like basically be my verbal processing, and then I would let it go and never talk about it again. But when I went to her this time, I said like, "Hey, thinking of doing this Ironman thing." She's like, "Yeah, you should totally do that." I'm like, "Shit, now I got to do it." And so yeah, started the whole thing, and I went all in on it, and had that support, and then yeah, it was kind of like I do remember those points like where I would finish the race, especially after I did Kona, like where the following day it was just like this emotional unload that you had, and I was already emotionally like didn't have the capacity because I just finished like this massive race and like build up, and then it just became this really huge massive conflict for us because now I felt like I didn't have the right to celebrate, and 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 you felt like you didn't have the right to like to do what you wanted to do. So both of us, even in both of those worlds, growth oriented and more in the fixed world, didn't feel like we had the opportunity to do what we wanted to do.
Exactly.
And I think there's also this reverse time too, where more recently it's like, I watched you kind of start to really embrace, that embrace your sexuality,
Yeah.
embrace who you are as a person, and get more like into that. And that too, like, caused me to reflect, like seeing you grow, like almost led to this feeling in me of like, oh wait, I don't know about what I am in that world. Like I'm like, I have to so much focus on like the career and the business and building this up that I don't know like what that is. And here my wife is just like having this like beautiful, like independent growth, and I'm like left behind. So I'm feeling like there's these feelings of like, of, feelings of almost like abandonment or being left behind, envy, resentment over like, the fact that we're not where we want to be. And yeah, I feel like we've definitely had those things, and I feel like we're definitely not alone. In fact, that this is kind of rooted in some of Carol Dweck's work, where she wrote the book. She wrote a book called Mindset, and it was all around the idea of the two types of people in the world, which are growth oriented, growth mindset people, and fixed mindset people. And the growth mindset people are those that are just like constantly thinking of ways to grow. And then fixed mindset are really those people that are more fixed in terms of like the right now and all of that. And I think to some extent, as we've seen in our relationship over the many years, we've ebbed and flowed as to where we have fixed and growth mindsets.
Yes.
And we talk to a lot of couples a lot of times where they say like, yeah, I'd really love to grow, or really love to do these things in a relationship, have a relationship vision and have goals and all this kind of stuff, but I can't get my spouse on board because they just don't want to do it or they're afraid of it. So yeah, I mean, I think I'd love to hear, your perspective on that, like when that shifted for you and how we started to get more aligned with growth when we're a little bit disjointed or unaligned.
I think when you have a fixed mindset, safety is really important.
Yeah.
I think that you have to make sure that you are safe. And in the aspect of when I was growing up, and I'm not sure if other people are like this, but, at 5 years old, I was told, hey, because I wanted something at a store, and I was told, hey, don't be selfish.
Right.
And in my heightened emotion, I'm going to think rationally and say, you know what, you're right, Dad. Like, no, I'm 5 years old. I'm
Right.
going to have all this emotion, and then it's tapped down on top of it, and realize, oh crap, I cannot want anything for myself.
Yeah.
That was that connection. And what did I do? I took that tool and I used it for the rest of my life.
Right.
So basically, I didn't want anything, so I couldn't want anything. And then that fixed mindset is pretty much that. You fixed it on a point in your life that said, hey, this is how it's going to be, and it's not going to be any other way.
Right. Right.
Because these are the rules that you set up for yourself.
Yeah.
So having that fixed mindset, it goes back to a point in your life where you had to make a decision for your safety in your life, because when you're in the parent-child relationship, you want that stability, you need that stability, you crave that stability. So instead of them being wrong, you put yourself wrong.
Right.
So
Right.
in that place, I said, okay, I don't want anything. Therefore, I'm going to have that, turn that down, numb it out, and then just go and do everything for everybody else in this world.
Right.
And then put myself last.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think that demonstrates kind of like that belief system that is reinforced. And I think kind of the idea of when we're misaligned on that, like on the fixed and the growth mindset, this is where, kind of the studies will demonstrate that marriages start to fall apart. And I think that there's been studies that suggest that I think 39% of marriages that fail are often attributed to the idea that there was a misalignment in that growth, that it didn't have to do with infidelity, it didn't have to do with anything like that. It was just that they grew apart.
Yes.
And that's an important part, is like growing apart
Yes.
is a factoid of like one person's growing with resentment that the other partner is in this fixed zone and they won't grow with them, or the other partner is resentful because the other partner is growing without them while they want to stay right here.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that either one of those things, being fixed or growth minded, can be either good or bad, right? Or I mean, and or neither. I mean, we don't have to put a distinction on it. We're specifically, I think, in this show, because we are talking to what tend to be entrepreneurial couples. They're going to be growth oriented because they want to grow a business, and that's the case. But equally true is people that are perfectly happy, just being completely where they are for their entire lives, and that's totally fine. So there's no shame on, and we're not saying fixed or growth is good or bad. There are growth oriented patterns and behaviors that are very, very unhealthy. There are fixed mindset patterns that are very, very unhealthy. And I think that's what we're trying to do is not focus on the individual person and the psychology within growth or fixed. We want to focus on how they interact and to create a healthy relationship between those two dynamics and how they go. People can shift between the growth and the fixed mindset, as we just demonstrated.
Exactly.
And I think where we run into the biggest kind of red flags with people we've worked with or in keynotes that we've given is when people ask the question, how can I get my spouse to grow with me? Or my spouse is just like always in the clouds and I can't bring him down to my level.
Yeah.
But interestingly, there's this, there's more data to suggest that couples that are able to encourage each other in the type of growth that they want, that individually the other partner wants, the stronger that they are, the more encouraging they can be in their separate individuality before, like, hey, we need to do this thing together. The more encouraging they can be in their individuality, the more those couples grow together, not apart.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's important, as if I'm hearing you right, it's that there needs to be a balance between the two. Neither is right or wrong. Fixed or growth mindset is neither right or wrong, but there needs to be that balance with each other. And some part of along the line that if we what I find important that we understand this about each other is our weekly meetings, because it's important that we have these connection meetings every week, and we kind of champion each other. We kind of cheerlead each other into, you want to do that? Instead of meetings like, you want to do that?
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? Be like, you do?
Right.
Oh my gosh, that sounds super exciting. Wow, yeah. Like, if you have somebody who's in a fixed mindset and they want to do something different, wow, you celebrate that.
Absolutely. Yes.
A lot too.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then we're also championing the person who's like always up in the cloud and is like, you know what, I really need to get more organized, and I know you take on a lot of the work around the house, and you do so much, and I want to be more a part of that. So I want to learn more about that too.
Right.
And I know you're super busy, and I know that this takes a lot of time out of your hands. If I start off maybe just mowing the lawn or doing the dishes, I think that would probably be a good place for me to start, to take some of the load off of you.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely, I think, supporting that other person in them, so that they feel like they're not absorbing all these things, so that you can stay, growing in your own way. And I mean, it's about finding that alignment and that overlap between where you can grow together separately. Esther Perel talks about this idea of separateness building like more novelty in the relationship. And I think this is another valuable component of it too, because when we can enrich each other in our growth mindset, or where we're fixed, or wherever that is, when we can mold each other, what that does is that actually increases the novelty in our relationship. It gives us that pattern. If you remember back maybe to those Ironman days, or maybe like if I'm remembering to like when I felt like I was left behind and those kinds of things, there was an inherent feeling in that scarcity mindset that I was in. And it's important to recognize that each of us, when we're feeling like our partner was growing beyond us at a certain point, that there was feelings that we had that were ours. It wasn't on the growth person because they were growing. It was the feeling that we had because there was something missing in us that we had to reflect, and we were responding with anger. And so when the fixed mindset person to the growth minded mindset person, when they basically convey to that growth minded person, no, don't grow, come back right here, it takes away the novelty from the growth person to say like, well, now I feel stuck.
Yes.
And now I feel like everything's a routine and it's boring. And that's where, like, in that relationship, the growth oriented person is going to feel like they're kind of like they're stagnant, like they're not growing. And that's where people start to break apart. That's where conflict happens. You're trying to keep things together by force, and what's happening is it's getting more separate. On the other side too, I see it as that there's that when the growth oriented person is trying to say, "Come on, come grow with me," you're basically trying to bring that person into this world where they may not want goals. They may not want to think in 10-year targets and rocks and yearly goals and all this kind of. They may just like, it may blow their mind and think you're trying to run this business or this marriage like a business, or like it's like you're trying to hold me accountable when all I want to do is connect. And so they see that you going off to the races and they feel that resentment, like, well, should I be doing that? Or also now I don't feel like I'm connected to you. I feel like you're going to find it somewhere else. So am I expressing that correctly? That there's this fear that being left behind means that you would be abandoned, that I would find that the growth oriented person might find something else.
Yeah.
And leave it behind
I
instead of
think
growing together.
there's the element of anxious attachment there too.
Yeah.
Because you're not just a couple, you're an individual.
Right.
Too.
Right.
And say like somebody who's maybe a little bit more anxious attached can see that as a threat because let's say like your anxious attachment, so maybe it was your parent, you know, like when you were young, that they were not always around, or you know, they have always left you alone,
Right.
so you didn't feel loved because when they left you alone, and if it like the security didn't of having a parent who wasn't there for you, that can contribute to your relationship. So when that person, the growth mindset person, is trying to grow, it looks like a threat
Yeah.
to the fixed person who wants everything to be stable and wants everything to be okay
Right.
because they feel safer in that environment.
Yeah.
So there's these discrepancies between the two that looks differently to the individual. But if we can pull that apart and really look at the pieces of, oh, they're not really trying to leave me. They are doing something that they enjoy.
Yeah.
And when I get to see them in that environment, I know I've seen you up on stage and playing music, and I'm really like enamored by you because it's
Right.
that desire that comes back to me.
Right.
To see you in an environment where you as an individual
Mm-hmm.
are growing and like performance too. So if you can get the person to understand in that aspect, like being an individual, like even the fixed mindset person, maybe like gardening is their passion and they like to see everything grow. And if what the connection, trying to bring it back to the connection of like the other person say, wow, those are beautiful flowers. I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Right.
It's like honoring each other for their individualities too. And
Yep.
that's where the connection can grow too. But understanding that this is where it could be coming from, is that fear of being abandoned.
Yeah. 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 And I could see that. I could see that as like that's the scarcity mindset of where it's coming from, but if we're thinking of more abundance, I love the way you put it when you say you saw me on stage and you felt like it was this desire. It's like, well, what if you shifted that feeling you had from this idea of I'm being left behind or the scarcity thing to legitimate legitimate joy for the other person experiencing something that they want to experience.
Yeah.
And this is true for like for the fixed mindset person, it's like you cannot stop a growth-minded person from being a growth-minded person. You just can't. Once that is unlocked, it's like, you know, you can't change a person from wanting to have more in their life. It's like trying to hold in a tiger with a paper cage. I mean, that person just wants to grow. My parents used to tell me all the time. It's just like, no, just stop. You know, just why do you have to want so much more? Just be happy. You know, just be. And it drove me nuts working in a family business and just being told to stay put and wait your turn and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like, no, how do I grow? And if you're not going to help me grow, I'm out. Because like that's the whole like idea of a growth minded person. If you're holding them in a cage, they won't. And I'm sure it's true for like the fixed mindset person that like if you're trying to like pull me into this like growth that just isn't my style or like make me set goals, I'm going to be living in a world that's really uncomfortable for me. But there's this phenomenon that's called the Michelangelo phenomenon, which is kind of cool.
Never heard of this one.
Yeah, so basically what it says is that great couples who are together who are basically you know, the sculptor Michelangelo,
Yeah.
they're basically sculpting each other into their ideal versions of self. And that's what great couples should be doing is not like trying to make them the ideal version of who you think they need to be.
Yeah.
which was my mistake for a lot of times in trying to like drag you along into goal setting and all this kind of stuff, or whatever, like, or like my, hey, this works so great for me, it's going to definitely work for you. No, but it's sculpting and this is like true in coaching, it's true in everything, is it's like sculpt the person into the best version of themselves
Yeah.
by basically encouraging them to live into that individual that you fell in love with in the first place.
Yeah.
We've said it before. We're on our fifth or sixth marriage together, you know, and like,
Exactly.
and we've evolved. We've changed. We're different now because we've evolved with faith. And I think if we were fixed mindset, we would have been afraid of becoming the people we are today. But in reality, because we focused and I think we shifted our mindsets away from that ideal of like, we've got to fix each other and bring them to where we want to be because they're going to be so much happier when they're exactly where we are. Instead, we just said, no, you be you authentically who you are, and it's going to be beautiful. And I trust that everything is going to work out for the best, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that has been the thing that worked. You have to let go in order to let grow. How's that?
That's an interesting way of putting it too.
Interesting meaning, yeah, that was stupid. No, just kidding.
I think that the I think where and I think it's what you're talking about is trying to control the other person.
Yeah.
And I think that we step into that role maybe as a woman, or like for me it was when you were alcoholic and I wanted to control you because, hey, if he doesn't do this, hide the booze, or do this, it's not going to get out of control. Trying to like make sure that the kids weren't too loud when or like not screaming, or it's ridiculous of the lengths that I've done that for trying to control you or the children. And that way of thinking is where everything can fall apart,
Yes.
because it's kind of saying you're not enough and you don't know how to handle your life, so let me do it for you.
Right, exactly.
But instead of allowing the person to be who they are. And you know what? It's like the admiration that I have for you is a lot more than that, because there's a part of me is like, wow, you are so great at that, and I admire you for that. Maybe it's not for me, but like I admire you for doing that. I don't think I could ever play a musical instrument or sing or even write music for that matter. So I admire you for that too.
Yeah.
And just letting you be your authentic self. And it feels so much more freeing.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so amazing to be in a place where we enjoy each other for each other, not how we could manipulate or control, or I want you to say this, or look like this, or act like this,
Yeah.
or eat this, or
Right.
I mean, because it's exhausting. First of all, I don't suggest anybody do that, but that allowing each other, it gives more room for us to enjoy each other too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's also an element of the idea that nobody's truly like wanting to exactly stay in the same place in their life. I think that there's just levels of growth orientedness, right? And I think one thing that happened too when I stopped like trying to drag you along on the idea of like growth and just like said, hey, I want you to be inauthentically you, and enough is who you are. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've ever made is like this idea that I almost got tattooed on my arm, never enough, because I felt so strongly that I was never going to be enough and I needed to constantly chase growth, right? And that's the unhealthy side of it. I did. Yeah, I mean that, because it was just like that was the unhealthy side of growth mindedness. Is like I'm never enough. But in reality, it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, if I can't just accept that, like on the opposite end, that I am truly enough as I am now, then I never truly have the confidence to show up authentically in any moment as like feeling like I can deliver on what I've got and learn the lessons that I need there. And I learned that both things can be true at the same time, that I can be enough as I am right now and also want to continue to grow, learn, and improve. And that's something that you taught me in that belief of wanting to be enough. And I think when I let go of that and I started to be more encouraging of you in whatever you wanted to pursue and do and be more like that chiseling effect. I mean, that's when you started to really grow into yourself a lot more, into your authenticity, and continue to be more enough of yourself as that is. Because I think everything is just a self discovery of what we're capable of. So I think the second that if there's a task for the growth oriented people, if you're living with a spouse who feels like they're a quote unquote fixed mindset or not growing as to your level of desire, then try this. Let go and encourage. Let go of the idea of what you think they need to be for you, or so that they can be what you think they need to be their best. Let go of that idea and just be encouraging. Let them go on the journey themselves to find themselves. Recognize those people, those people who don't want to set the goals, don't want to do the visions, all this kind of stuff. Let them know that they are enough and they're enough for you. And continue down your growth path. And then watch what happens to that person as they blossom into the person that they want to be authentically and the person that you fell in love with in the first place.
Yes.
And then so from the fixed mindset side or from the opposite side, those who might feel like they're not wanting all that growth or anything like that, or they're wanting to kind of hold the ankles of the person that's got their heads in the clouds and pull them down. Why not also let go and see what happens? Let go of that idea that you need to control this person. Let go of the idea that you need to control. See how they can soar and become, who they really want to be. When I think about this story, about this whole idea, who's coming to mind? It's Dolly Parton.
Why?
American treasure. So, did you know that Dolly Parton, the most, beautiful country music star ever to grace us with her presence, beautiful, funny, kind, I mean, just the whole package, right?
Yeah.
And she's married. You know who she's married to?
No.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yes.
I've never seen him before.
Never seen him. Yeah. And it's not a country star. It's not like this gorgeous, like I don't necessarily know what he looks like. I'm sure he's a great looking guy, but we don't know him. But like the whole point is that this gentleman who prefers to be, not in the limelight,
Yeah.
is allowing his growth oriented spouse to shine in the best way, and I'm sure supporting her in that way so that she can become that national treasure. And conversely, Dolly Parton, I'm sure, is letting him shine in the way that he knows best, not dragging him into the limelight and into the world. That's like something to aspire to. Now, I'm speaking totally out of school. I don't know what their relationship is like.
No.
But I'm just presenting kind of an example of what I've seen. And I did see that documentary, and it kind of talked a little bit about it. I was like, oh, that's pretty amazing. And I just want to keep that that fantasy in my mind that's how their relationship
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Me too. But you make a good point about letting go of control for the fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And allowing the person with the growth mindset to allow not I wouldn't even say allow. I would say more like just not trying to control them to where you think that they should be because you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're not going to want to be with you.
Yes.
Like both ends are encouraging. The one flying and the one who is kind of like wants to stay where they're at is like, wow, that's great. I love that for you.
Yeah.
And having that connection so that you both understand that they're not going anywhere.
Right.
And having that acceptance for each other is meaning that you still want to be a part of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you have some sort of resentment, it's a great opportunity to unpack those things of why, and get curious of where is that coming from,
Yeah.
and maybe how you two can connect on a level in between both of those
Yeah.
spots too,
Absolutely.
and give each other reassurance if it's necessary too.
Yeah. You know, the great exercise on this is, especially if you're both growth oriented.
Right.
Now, if you're, obviously if your spouse isn't into like doing the vision, the goals and stuff like that, then, don't force them to do this activity. But if both of you feel like you're growth oriented, you love putting the visionary, you both kind of visionary ideas together, read this book, simple book called Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. And both of you separately draft your own version of your visions of what you want individually. Of course, it can include, what you want for your spouse and all this, but do it individually so that you can be totally embodied in what you want, and your spouse can be embodied in what they want.
Exactly.
Then bring it together and find out where there's alignment, because that's where the alignment is. That and continue to sculpt each other about what you truly want. Marie is moved into the world of intimacy coaching and embracing her sexuality in such a beautiful way, and I'm in this world of individual and business coaching, and we're both coming together in this way that's helping spouses to really live, just have a great sex life, a great business, and great relationships. But I think, separately, we're our own individuals, and we're embracing that for ourselves, and that's what's helping us to grow together. And I think for growth-oriented couples who are doing that, that's how you grow together too. For fixed mindset couples, that's how you grow together as well. Chisel each other into the versions of yourselves, or into each other, that individually you'd want to be.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's like where a lot of people get it wrong is that they need to change or control the other person. And the reality is having acceptance for each other, and get creative
Yep.
and find ways that you can celebrate each other for being themselves, and watch each other blossom
Yeah.
in that aspect. Because if you're trying to pull them down or you're trying to pull them up, either way, it's a being forceful and controlling. But when you allow and let go, you realize how you see their desires grow and their individualities can flourish, and how way more attractive that is.
Yes.
When you fill your heart with acceptance.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's such a great way to tie a bow on this show and end it. So, and I think that even as you're helping each other to support one another in their individuality, the goal is also to stay connected, right? And the way that you stay connected is through that intentional time together. That intentional time together should happen at least once a week, where you're sitting down, you're connecting on a deeper level. It could be while you're on a date. It could be just while you're sitting outside. It could be over morning coffee, but just make that intentional time for connection. And we actually have a free resource that we have available for you. It's downloadable. It's a simple couples connection workbook that gives you a guide on how to set up a weekly rhythm of connection with your spouse, with an agenda on how to meet and how to connect better, how to reinforce and how to lift each other up in these ways. It also walks you through our Spark framework so that you can get familiar with safety, play, alignment, rhythms, and Kaizen, so that you can strengthen the relationship that strengthens everything else in your life, especially if you're building a business together. So download that. That's going to be linked in our show notes. If you like this episode, share it with a friend. Subscribe, like it, do all the things. Spread the word, because we want to get this word out there that couples who strengthen their relationship strengthen everything else in their lives. And it's just tragic that so many relationships are falling apart when they don't necessarily have to, when connection is possible, and there's simple systems that can help you do that. And that's the system that we've built through the Spark framework. And so we appreciate you joining us this week. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining us.